Records of the grand history. This book Chinese name is Shiji. Speaking of this book, we often think of its grand historical perspective that explores the relationship between heaven and humanity and comprehends the changes from ancient to present. However, few have noticed that within Shiji lies China's first systematic economic history treatise in the annal of historiography. The name is Treatise on the Balance Standard. Chinese name is pingzhun. Hello everyone, I'm Tony San. I want to introduce more traditional culture about China to you. This is my first program. Welcome your support. Today, let's talk about this treatise. This seemingly dry economic age is, in fact, Sima Qian's written history of the economic rise and fall of the Western Han Dynasty. It not only records the prosperity of the rule of Wen and Jing in the early Han, but also exposes the pros and cons of the economic policies during Emperor Wu's reign, containing governance wisdom that transcends 2,000 years. Today, let us delve into pingzhun to understand Sima Qian's economic thought and his profound concern for the nation. The birth of pingzhun stems from Sima Qian's deep insight into the century-long economic changes of the Western Han Dynasty. At the beginning of the Western Han, after the turmoil of the late Qin and the struggle between Chu and Han, the social economy was in ruins. Fiercely barren, the population had sharply declined, and even the emperor's carriage could not find four horses of the same color. While ministers and generals had to travel in ox carts. Faced with such difficulties, the early Han rulers adopted the Huang Lao philosophy of governing by non-action, implementing policies of light corvée labor and low taxes to allow the people to recover, reducing taxes, encouraging agriculture and sericulture, and relaxing control over commerce, enabling the populace to recover. Through the governance of Emperors Wen and Jing, the Western Han economy rapidly revised, leading to a prosperous era, where the strings used to trade coins in the treasury rotted away, making the coins uncountable, and grain overflowed from the state granaries, with much of it rotting and becoming inedible. However, by the time of Emperor Wu, the economic landscape underwent drastic changes. Ambitious and talented, Emperor Wu launched campaigns against Zhun in the north, conquered the Baiyue in the south, and opened up the western regions. While these territorial expansions solidified the Han dynasty's borders, they also consumed vast financial resources. Years of warfare, large-scale construction projects, and extravagant imperial spending rapidly depleted the wealth accumulated during the rule of Wen and Jing, plunging the state's finances into severe crisis. To address this fiscal dilemma, Emperor Wu implemented a series of radical economic reforms. And the core of pingzhun lies in its comprehensive record and deep critique of the economic policies of this period. Pingzhun chronologically clarifies the four core economic policies of Emperor Wu's reign, which, while innovative in solving fiscal crises, also harbored profound social risks. First, the state monopoly on salt and iron. This was the most crucial economic reform of Emperor Wu's reign. Sima Qian records that Emperor Wu nationalized the salt and iron industries, which were previously privately operated, placing their production and distribution under unified government control. These policies quickly increased state revenue, providing funds for welfare and construction. But it also had drawbacks. The government monopoly led to declining product quality, rising prices, and suffering among the people, while officials in charge of salt and iron took advantages of their positions to engage in corruption, exacerbating social tensions. Second, the Jun Shu and pingzhun. The meaning of Jun Shu is equal transportation. The meaning of pingzhun is balanced standard. To stabilize prices and curb hoarding by wealthy merchants, Emperor Wu established Jun Shu officials and pingzhun officials. Jun Shu were responsible for transporting tribute goods from various regions to the capital or areas with shortages, avoiding the accumulation of goods. Pingzhun officials purchased commodities when prices were low and sold them when prices rose, thereby stabilizing prices. Sima Qian acknowledged the role of this policy in stabilizing the market and increasing fiscal revenue, but also pointed out that collision between officials and merchants during its execution exacerbated prices fluctuations, harming the interests of ordinary people. Third, the Suanmin and Gaomin decrees. The meaning of Suanmin is property tax. The meaning of Gaomin is denunciation. These were tax places targeting wealthy merchants. Suanmin involved levying property taxes on merchants and users, while Gaomin encouraged people to report wealthy merchants who concealed property or evaded taxes, with informants receiving half of the confiscated property as a reward. This policy temporarily amassed vast wealth for the state and curbed the influence of wealthy merchants, but it severely disrupted the commercial environment, leading to fewer merchants and higher prices, stifling the vitality of the private economy. Fourth, the unification of currency. Before Emperor Wu, the Han Dynasty's currency was chaotic, with regional lords and private individuals allowed to mint coins, resulting in inconsistent quality and severe inflation. Emperor Wu abolished various old currencies, unified the minting of the Wuzhu coin, and centralized the right to mint coin. This measure standardized the monetary system, promoted the circulation of goods, and marked a significant milestone in ancient Chinese monetary history, for which Sima Qian expressed high approval. The most valuable aspect of Pingzhun Shu is that it is not merely a record of policies but a crystallization of Sima Qian's economic thought on comprehending the changes from ancient times to the present. He proposed a highly visionary view. The highest level of economic governance is to follow nature laws and allow the market to develop freely. The next is to guide it, then to educate, followed by regulation and rectification. And the worst approach is to compete with the people for profit. By recording the rise and fall of the Western Han economy, Sima Qian profoundly revealed the principle that the economic foundation determines the fate of the nation. The early Han followed the economic laws and allowed the people to recuperate, leading to the prosperous rules of Wen and Jing. In the later years of Emperor Wu, excessive intervention in the economy and competing with the people for profit, while solving short-term fiscal crises, resulting in the decline of people's livelihood, intensified social conflicts, and sowed the seeds for the Han Dynasty's decline. He acknowledged the necessity of Emperor Wu's economic policies while candidly criticizing their drawbacks, demonstrating the historian's spirit of not exaggerating beauty nor concealing faults. Moreover, pingzhun pioneered the tradition of recording economic history in China's official histories. Before this, historical texts focused mostly on politics, military affairs, and figures, rarely systematically documenting economic conditions. Sima Qian was the first to elevate the economy to the height of the foundation of governance, detailing developments in finance, currency, commerce, agriculture, and other aspects. Citing an example for later historical works, subsequent texts such as the Treatise on Food and Mourning in the Book of Han, a Chinese name is Shi and the Treatise on Commentaries and States in the Book of the later Han, both of them deeply influenced by pingzhun shu, forming the fine tradition in Chinese historiography of comprehending the changes from ancient times to the present and exploring the principle of the economy. 2,000 years later, when we reread pingzhun shu, we can still sense its wisdom. Sima Qian's reflection on the relationship between government and the market, the balance of physical places, and the wielding competition with the people for profit, hold profound significance for our efforts today in advancing economic reforms, regulating market order, and achieving common prosperity. It reminds us the formulation of any economic policy should balance national interests with the well-being of the people, leveraging the regulatory role of the government while respecting market laws, avoiding excessive intervention and competition with the people for profit. Although pingzhun shu is an economic history work from over 2,000 years ago, every word and sentence pertains to the fundamentals of governance. Sima Qian used his brush to record the fluctuations of the economy, and his thoughts to warn of the gains and losses of policies, demonstrating the foresight and sense of responsibility of a great historian. I hope today's sharing will allow you to rediscover the diverse value of Shiji and draw wisdom on balance and development from this 2,000-year-old economic epic. Until next time.